So we are on to learning goal number 4, and this is sort of a switch. Now we're going to look at I can convert mixed numbers to improper fractions and improper fractions to mixed numbers. So on a new fresh page in your math journal, you're going to want to jot down that learning goal. And if you don't understand what those are quite yet, that's okay. We're going to start looking at those right now. So we're going to start with
It's going to be hard to convert if you don't know what they are.
That is very true. So here we have our vocab. An improper fraction is where a numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator. So if you look here, if we practiced our skill, and you should all know how to add these fractions, we would have 5/4. So that probably looks different to you. Numerator is bigger than the denominator. That's all an improper fraction is. So if you need to take a moment, you can pause and jot that down. You want to make sure to have the complete definition though, please. Alright, so what does it actually look like? 5/4 can look different ways depending on shapes. But here we have 5/4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded in out of each fourth that we see here. So that's one way to look at it. Another way, if you're looking at the fractions here, we have 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. That's like this one whole, and you can see it here and you can see it right here, depending if you're still looking at fourths or this is one whole or one.
As we talked about how, I don't know if it was learning goal 1 or 2, but we talked about how, you know, like if you have the same numerator as the denominator, then that's equal to one whole. So again, this is just another way to see that.
Yeah. So now we're breaking this up and we can say, well, this is 1 and 1/4. This is now a mixed number. And that is the second vocab word that we want you to jot down. A mixed number is just a mixture of a whole number and a fractional part or a fraction. So pause if you need to, and those are your 2 vocab words that you're going to look at.
And I think, too, if we click it again, I think it talks about how you say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you might have noticed when I was reading the slide before, I said 1 and 1/4. And we can think about how earlier on we were learning about decimals. And that little decimal point would stand for and.
And that's sort of like the little space between the whole number and the mix and the fraction too. So an and. So go ahead and write that down. And then we're going to take a look at some examples here. So I'm just going to walk you through A, B, and C, and you don't have to draw in all these pictures, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to write out the actual mixed numbers that I'm going to do in a second. So if we look at A first, you can see, first of all, I'm going to look at one whole, and that's split in half. So each of these is a half, each of these shaded in. So when I think about it as an improper fraction, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 halves. That's why it's written like that. So when I write that, that is my improper fraction. And if you look now, 2 of these are all the way filled in. There's 2 holes there. So if I write that as a mixed number, that becomes 2 and a half. Okay? So 5 halves is equivalent to 2 and 1/2. So just some visuals for you to see. Alright, so looking at the next one. Again, these are split into fourths. I have to figure that out first. So if I count up how many fourths I have, if I wanted to write this out as an improper fraction, I have 4, 8, 12, 13. So I have 13 fourths, because they're all little pieces of fourths. And then if I look at how many holes I have, that I have all the way filled in, I have 3 all the way filled in, so 3 holes and 1/4. So I have 3 and 1/4. And my last one that I'm going to give you before you need to try a couple on your own is these triangles here. And so again, I'm looking at how they're split. They're split in half, so each of these little shaded in parts is worth a half. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 halves. And if I wanted to make that into a mixed number, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, so 4 and a half is my mixed number. So all of these are equivalent. And then go ahead and try D and E on your own. We want to see your improper fraction, and we also want to see the mixed number that goes with it. Okay? So this is the visual.
So So now for thinking about how we want to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. So we're going to talk about, there's a couple different ways. I'm going to show you one way, and then Mrs. Bush is going to show you maybe a little shortcut. But let's look first here at an example. We have 2 3/4. And if we really think about breaking this apart, that's really like saying, okay, we have 2 wholes plus 3/4. Breaking it up even more. We can break up this 2 wholes as 1 and 1. And what we were talking about before is that it can also be turned into a fraction, 4/4. And I want to choose 4/4 because we're dealing with fourths here. That's why we see 4/4 plus 4/4. That's the same thing. Now, if we added up all of these numerators, we would get 11/4. So that is one way to solve when you see a mixed number. You can turn it into an improper fraction by sort of breaking it all up like this.
Yep.
And let's just look at one more as an example to help you out. Here we have 3 2/5, and once again we're just going to break that up. So now we have 3 wholes broken up, and as you know, as fractions then that would look like 5/5 3 times. So we have 5/5 plus 5/5 plus 5/5, and then you don't want to forget about the extra 2/5 over here. So adding those up, we should get 17/5.
I don't know if we mentioned it, but you should have at least one of those two. You should have all the steps written out, so at least you can refer back to it if you've forgotten. So a lot of times, I don't know if you have this problem, because I don't remember how to do that. Well, I tell them to go back and look in the notes. And so if you don't have this, it's going to be a problem for you.
I got a little excited. I wanted to show you right away. But yes, make sure, pause, rewind if you need to, and jot one of those examples down.
Yep. And the good news is there is a shortcut. So if this seems a little long and you're going, whoa, that's going to take forever, there is a shortcut, and there's actually a little acronym to help you remember. Get mad. So the M, the A, and the D all stand for something different. The M stands for multiply, and I'll show you the example that does this. But the first step you would do if you have a mixed number is multiply the denominator and the whole number.
Got it.
And you're adding the numerator to that. And after that, so that's the A for the mad, and after that is the denominator, just leave it alone. Leave that denominator alone. So here's the example. If we had that 2 2/5, first step is to multiply the denominator and the whole number. So 5 times 2, which gives us 10. Then the A, add the numerator. So 10 plus 2 is 12. And then the D, leave the denominator alone. So we have 12/5. So a little shortcut for you. And I also think sometimes I'll tell the kids, my students, to go like around the clock. They're going this way around the clock, clockwise. So times, add, and then it stops up here. But that's another little trick. So whichever of those works for you, that's what we want you to try on these two. So there's 2 examples. We want you to convert these mixed numbers into improper fractions using whichever way you prefer.
All right, so we're going to flip-flop in our minds here, and we are going to start with an improper fraction this time, try to get it into a mixed number. So let's say we have this fraction of 9/4. What we're going to do is think about, okay, well, I can fit, or I can break that up. Now I have 4/4 plus 5/4, and that would equal 9/4.
I noticed you just pulled out a whole from there. Since you were talking about denominators, we had, like, you pulled out one whole from there.
So we have 4/4 here, but look here, we still have an improper fraction. That means I could fit another 4/4 to get another whole. So now it's broken up like this. I have 4/4 plus 4/4, and then I just have this little leftover part right here. So as a mixed number, oh yeah, here's my little holes. Then I'm going to get 2 1/4. So we're just sort of breaking it down.
Yep. Pretty much backwards from what you did before. I don't know if you saw that zoom ahead.
I know,
but
it's
I
so
said
quick.
there is another shortcut. Lucky you. Maybe unlucky though, this one involves division.
Yeah.
So instead of pulling out the whole and then figuring out how to add them through like this, you can use division. So the way I guess I think about it, just in my head, is I think how many times does 7 go into 10?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that you'd write that looks like this, okay? So how many times does 7 go into 10? So 10 becomes my numerator. My numerator, 10 is my numerator. It doesn't become my numerator. 10 is my numerator. It goes on the inside of this division sign, so I tend to think of N for numerator, N for the inside, if that helps you remember it. So I have that come down here, and I figure out 7 goes into 10 once, and then you go through the whole long division process. 7 times 1 is 7, subtract it 3, and my 3 now becomes my numerator. So I have 1 and 3 7s. So when I think about it, just speaking it, and this picture hopefully will help. If I had 7 4s, I think to myself, how many times does 4 go into 7? Once. Just one time, right? Yeah. So that becomes my whole number. Well, then how many are left? If 4 goes into 7 once, there's 3 more left. That becomes my numerator, and my denominator, again, just leave it alone. Mm-hmm. So there's those two ways. There's the sort of stretching it out, and then there's the way where you use division.
All right, so now that we've shown you the way, it is your turn to pause, take a moment, and jot these down. And as you notice, we have improper fractions, so you're going to turn those into mixed numbers. So pause first, try these two, and then we'll walk you through them. Yep. All right, wow. Okay, so looking here, we have 12 divided by 5, or I guess you're right. I do the same thing. I look here and think 5 goes into 12. How many times? I can see 2 times, and I have 2 left over then. And so that is why our remainder now is the numerator. So we have 2 and 2/5 is our answer. Mm-hmm. So once again, looking here, let's break this down and explain it. We have 8 divided by 3, or how many times does 3 go into 8? I can see that it goes in 2 times, and once again I have 2 left over again. So that is why 2 is my numerator. So I have 2 and 2/3 now is my answer. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, pausing, you have the same answer. If you don't though, please look back at your notes or re-watch part of this video, because how we're going to end our video is by having you try these two on your own. Mm-hmm. So please re-watch if you need to. But
and also, one more quick little thing. If you get your answer and you want to double check it, so let's say you're a lot better at converting mixed numbers into improper fractions than you are about going the other. Just like check your answer and see if you actually get it right. That's just another little good thing to do in math, is to double check your answers if you can. So
definitely.
Yeah. So do that and then give these two a try, and we will check those 4 I think they had to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck. See you tomorrow.